Good afternoon on what is a bright, blustery and changeable day. I'm out here in the Reading Nook, dodging between the rain showers with a nice hot cup of tea. And of course, something from Free RPG Day to peruse, and in this case it is Enter the Collection, an adventure for Essence 20 role-playing system. Now, Free RPG Day took place on Saturday, October the 16th, and every day since I have been basically doing a video about one of the wide array of titles available on the day, and I do hope that you were able to get to your local friendly gaming store and they were participating because there really were some interesting titles on show and available on the day. And of course, if you don't have a friendly local gaming store, hopefully you've got a friendly gaming store from which you can do mail order. And I say that because there are plenty available, including Fanboy 3. And I mentioned Fanboy 3 because without Fanboy 3 and David Salisbury there, I would not have this and the other Free RPG Day titles to do an overview of and subsequently review. So I want to thank David. It's very generous of him and his staff to give up their time and their titles for me to do these videos and of course the reviews. So, Enter the Collection, adventure for Essence 20 role-playing system. It is from Renegade Games and it is compatible with the following properties: the Power Rangers Roleplaying Game, G.I. Joe Roleplaying Game, and Transformers Roleplaying Game. And there is no blurb. Okay, so let's have a look inside. Okay, so Enter the Collection. The roughly 10,000 people of Crystal Springs, a lovely suburban community of just half away from the nearest major shipping and transportation hub, have enjoyed a wonderfully normal life for decades. There have been ups and downs, but nothing extraordinary happens here until now. The last several weeks have seen a rise in missing persons reports, emergency room visits from anonymous violent crimes, and a sharp increase in late night activity outside the city limits in the industrial park. Crystal Springs citizens complain about the noise and request official help from the mayor's office as well as the police. It all seems to fall on deaf ears. No one seems to have any answers. But all of the topmost people that should aren't even really looking. Whatever the reason, bribes, blackmail, or plain willful ignorance, it cannot last forever. The character's contact has become aware of the situation, has called upon them to get involved. This adventure takes place in and around Crystal Springs, when a concerned citizen who knows about the special nature of the player characters reaches out to them for help. What they get involved with beyond that point is another matter altogether. So, let me see. It's an adventure in 3 parts. So we have investigation. The second part is an optional late night chase, and part 3 takes place in an abandoned airfield. Essentially the characters contact or their command leader or the person they know tells them they have someone in the team needs to meet about an important environmental matter. So that kicks off the scenario. So yeah, it is a bit disappointing not really knowing what this is about from the off. I mean, no back cover blurb. I mean, I know it's great being mysterious, but when you think, okay, is it compatible with Power Ranger? Is it compatible with G.I. Joe? Is it compatible with Transformers? And yes, of course, it's compatible with all 3, as it says on the front, but, you know, immediately I'm going, well, there's sort of no guidance as to whether to use all 3. And this, essentially, this is an adventure. It's not a quick start to the Essence 20 system. And the Essence 20 system, essentially, I can only gather, is really a distilled down version of basically the 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, which of course uses its rolling a d20, the 20-sided die as its core mechanic. Much like I would think if you go back to sort of the mid-noughties when True 20 came out from Green Ronin Publishing, and that essentially was a distillation of the D20 system. Okay, so we have basically nice artwork. We basically a visit to Vermilion Lake. So let's have a look. And let's have a look. We have here's basically what a character looks like. I'll show you that. So we've got basically size, health, basically stats for toughness, evasion, willpower and cleverness, movement, and then skills, alertness, athletics, might, persuasion and so on. And they each add a die type to presumably to when that type of character roll acts. We get to the area, basically the lake. We've got surveilling the area. There's a late night delivery, trespassing after dark, and got a nice bit of a map there. The characters could basically do reconnaissance of the area before they encounter the collector, a foot soldier, several of them. And then basically it was a nice picture of a truck from overhead, but I'm not entirely sure that adds a great deal to. I sit corrected. It's a half track. And then we go into. Let's look what else we got. We've got a Badger ATV, basically. Again, almost as essentially going, yes, use these as on the map as a sort of a vehicle in a war game sort of thing. Fought out with miniatures, and essentially part 2, a late night chase. Basically, this follows any escaping collecting agents to stop them alerting the collection that they've been found out. And essentially, this obviously will get the player characters will get involved and chase them all the way. Let's have a look to. It says, that's part 2. Part 3. Oh, sorry. Part 3. The chase is just sort of like almost half a page long, and you get to part 3, the airport, airfield, where you'll find more collection agents and stalkers and so on, and they'll be doing this at night. And the player characters, of course, will have to find a way of getting in, whether that's fighting or sneaking or whatever. Inside we have, that's presumably what's inside the hangar, some kind of so it's basically a stealth jet. And then we have the adventure conclusion, what happens next. So, okay, this presumably is essentially an adventure. You need one of these sets of rules, or presumably there's basically sort of or you could play it sort of like a generic set of rules, or the generic sort of version of the Essence 20 system. But you could see how even with this overview, you can see how the scenario works with each of the different kind of setting compatibilities, because essentially, the Power Rangers, G.I. Joe, and so the Transformers, they're all going to sneak around and do some surveillance, and then presumably get involved in a chase, especially the Transformers, and then of course they're going to sneak onto the airfield and confront the enemy and basically deal with the problem. And essentially, so I can see this scenario being played in each of those kind of settings without really any problems. And in a sense, you could actually take the plot of this, and then drop it into the role-playing game of your choice, if it's something similar, sort of almost like a Saturday morning cartoon kind of thing, entertainment, if you're running that sort of campaign. But and I think the thing is with this, one criticism obviously is the fact that what this means is this is so generic a scenario and in that it works with all three, it's kind of not really necessarily that interesting in terms of those role-playing games themselves. Because it's not written for any one of them, it kind of loses some flavour. When you run it, of course, the flavour will be brought in essentially by the player characters and the players, because they'll be playing in the milieu of the role-playing game. And what the referee and the GM could do is actually go in and say, okay, and just modify it, just to make it a little bit more like the settings of the particular role-playing game. Add in an enemy who might appear, a recurring enemy for G.I. Joe or the Transformers or something, that would better tie it in to the setting. But otherwise, if you're looking for a generic scenario which you can adapt to all three, or a modern sort of like cartoonish role-playing game of your choice, then Enter the Collection would probably work reasonably well. As I say, it is again a little odd, not really being for one particular game, so it's a little bit generic. But anyway, that's Enter the Collection, an adventure for the Essence 20 role-playing game from Renegade Game Studios. If you've enjoyed this sort of unboxing overview, then please do click the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, then please do post those. I take the time to read them. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings or overviews for free RPG Day, normally it's unboxings where I basically have a package and I pull out a game, and essentially either way I talk about it to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do hit that subscribe button. In the meantime, thanks again for watching, and I'll be back again soon with another unboxing in the Nook. Bye for now.